listening to Unfiltered with Muhammad Uncut, a podcast about personal growth and authentic leadership. If you're looking for tips on how to manage others, get ahead, and make your way up the corporate ladder, this is not the show for you. This podcast is about being of service to others, leading from the heart, and evolving into a better version of yourself. Each episode brings you motivated stories about unfiltered leadership and authentic leaders, those who involve others, use their influence to amplify diverse perspectives, and inspire teams to achieve collective results. If this sounds like you, keep listening. Hello, and welcome to the Unfiltered Podcast with Mohammed Hamoud and Josia Nakash.
Hey everyone, my name is Josie. I'm actually a Canadian living in Israel for over 40 years. I believe the key to fixing all this is human connection. Investing in human connection. It sounds a little bit strange, but very soon it's not going to sound so strange. And this is what I'm telling to business leaders and, all kinds of organizations, anyone that has influence, anyone that has resources, power. Let's create these new platforms. I don't think Zoom is going to be enough to put millions of people, from Toronto together into breakout rooms and stuff. We need to create new. I'm also a high-tech expert. I forgot to tell you. We need to create these new platforms where the whole world can really connect in a significant way and not just webinars and not just listening to other people talk. People need to come into events and connect with their fellow man, with people who are very different than them. Like I, for instance, started my day off today with my first meeting with the UAE with somebody called Ahmed, and I was a bit worried about it, There's sort of our enemies and everything. That's how we're brought up here. And the minute he said good morning, we were just on an audio telephone call. The minute I heard his voice, he said, good morning. What a sweetheart. What a nice human. We just had an amazing connection. We had an amazing half-an-hour chat. And that was my morning. And now in the evening, I'm being interviewed by Mohammed. So the world is literally shifting every single day. It's incredible.
And that is incredible, Josie, because, we get to choose in how we help the world shift. So, you and I were having an offline discussion before we got on here, and we were talking about how the cycle needs to be broken. The cycle of what we've always accepted as how things work needs to break. And, you do that. You talk about it. You work about this with what you do. You break the toxicity between the human energy and you create connections through transformation. And that's what gets me going on this podcast. It's all about unfiltered. I believe that when we can make that personal transformation, becoming a better version of ourselves, a better human being, when we get to be better persons ourselves, then we can open the door to become better humans with others. And our differences no longer create walls, but they create bridges where we get to know people who are different than us, have different beliefs, because we live together on this earth. So I'm glad to be able to do that with you today.
Now that's a nice concept, what you just said. It was beautiful. Let's make it into a soundbite. But, and here's the big but, it goes against human nature. All these things that you said are absolutely correct. Now tell me how you're going to do it. And this is where everybody gets stuck, because nobody really understands what we're dealing with and how serious this monster that we're dealing with is the growing human ego, and that it's not something we have to get rid of. Buddhism is let's be rocks. No, we're not meant to be rocks. We're humans. We're the speaking part of nature. We're the speaking layer of nature. We need to speak. We were created like this for a reason. The ego, when we learn to use it correctly, we're going to be able to maximize our human potential. Right now, we only use about 3 or 4% of our brain. What's the other 96% for? It's for a circle. It's for connecting with other humans, for integrating with people who are different than us, and not just in their color, in how their whole, their background, how their mind works, their culture. When we start connecting, when we start activating our global connection. And I know growing up in Canada, what? There's other people in the world, I don't know if you were born there. I was born there. This is the middle. This is it. Geography class doesn't even exist. I got to here in Israel, and I got to geography class, and all of a sudden I was like, oh, there's the rest of the world. We're not just North America. So, like, really, we need to connect. We need to activate our global connection. And what you were saying about, personal development, sort of the era of personal development is over. With this
Mm,
pandemic, it's like put a last nail in the coffin of personal development. Now we're transitioning into a phase of collective development.
mm.
So now you can sit and you can listen to 1,000 podcasts, you can read 1,000,000 books, and you might feel better about yourself, but you're not actually developing. If you actually want to develop now, if you actually really want to advance, you have to do it in a circle.
So how do we go beyond the platitude of thinking and internalizing this transformation, personal transformation, and take it to this collective, this circle? Tell me more about that.
It's impossible. It's
How do we make
im-
it possible?
it's impossible. And that's what this whole stage is about. It's about becoming conscious of what we're really dealing with. That we're dealing with the human ego. I am a human ego expert. I am a human nature expert. I've been deep in this for the last 20 years. In this, we do this method here in Israel called the integral method, the integral approach. We've been doing it all over the place for the last 20 years. We bring Arabs and Israelis into a circle together in
I
Eilat.
like.
We do events like that outside, okay, where it's sort of safe. Like, no, but like people that were just, when things were normal a few years ago, when there were tourists walking around in Eilat, we just used to go bring people into the circle. And you sit there in a circle with Orthodox Jews, secular Israelis, Arabs, and the Jews, and they would go through this circle together. And the minute you're sitting in a circle, doing some simple little, applying some simple rules, and the collective intelligence of the circle and everything, there's very simple rules. Let's go around the circle, a speaking object. Everybody speak briefly. We want to hear everyone. Everyone is equally important in the circle. And the minute you just sit down in a circle, that's already shifting
Mm.
something than walking by an Arab on the promenade there in Eilat and thinking, oh my God, our enemy just walked by, they have their things on and everything. For us, it's like, oh, that's the enemy, walking by. So just the fact that you're sitting in a circle together is already something. And then there's a bit of an introduction, how the circle's going to work. And then there's a workshop question and we go around the circle. And then we start listening to each other. And then we start very quickly understanding these people are human, like we're human. They have kids. They want their
Mm.
kids to be safe. They want to have, they just want to be happy and safe and have a nice life. And then your common humanity kicks in. And you can do this with any people, anyone. I've seen Orthodox people and secular Israelis who normally would not, they don't even look at each other in the street. It's like, in the circle, it's different. And that's our future stage. And we actually come out of that half an hour or 45 minutes in the circle, we come out high with a natural high from human connection because we're wired for connection. But with all this world of all the iPhones and YouTube and social media, we've lost that. So when you actually sit in a circle, which is an ancient thing from thousands of years ago, and when you actually connect, speaking, talking to other human beings in a very systematic way, going around the circle, it's not just one person sitting there talking from their ego. Because of the method, it's very non-egoistic. We're actually rising slightly above our ego and connecting at a higher level. So what this whole process is about, there's this huge evolutionary process happening, this social human evolutionary historic moment right now that it's happening. How are we going to crack into there? We can't crack into there using all the old stuff, all the egoistic things. And that's what's annoying about what you're seeing right now is, everyone's just trying to get back to normal. There's no
We don't
going back to
want the
normal.
normal. Yeah.
We can't, like, there's this huge network that we're all connected to, and right now it's a very egoistic network, and we all need to start thinking about what we put into that network. If we want to get good back from the network, if we want to get good energy from nature, from this whole system, we have to think about what we're putting into there. Are we putting in violence, gossip, porno, drugs? Think about all the garbage we put into that collective consciousness every day. And why are we surprised that everything's falling apart? We shouldn't be surprised. Why are we surprised when a child picks up a gun that happens to be a rifle? I'm a sniper instructor, by the way, in the IDF, the second female sniper instructor. Why are we surprised that a child picks up a rifle that happened to be hanging around his house and goes and shoots his classmates if he's slightly unbalanced? Because he's grown up with all those examples, and
Right.
humans learn from examples. So think about the culture in North America, and maybe a bit less so in Canada. My brother lives in British Columbia. Like, I think they're a bit more like still nature over there. But, in America, in the big cities, the culture is all about, hurting and harming other human beings, your fellow human beings. And we think, we can just keep dumping garbage into this planet and treat this planet like a garbage can,
Mm.
and that everything's going to be fine. Would you go into your home and just throw garbage on
No.
the floor? Would you go into your home and gossip about your kids and stuff like we do all day about celebrities and all these things? The whole world is our home, and we need to start feeling that in our heart. So I hear a lot of experts saying, okay, let's solve this whole fire business and everything. Let's be more conscious. Let's be more mindful. That's right. But how are you going to do it? Because our ego doesn't let us think well of our fellow human man. So we need to have a system for overriding all that. That's why it's very important to me to spread the integral method, which is a very simple method for real human connection. And I'm interested in seeing this spread like wildfire, in communities, and before it's too late, while we still have the resources to create the platforms, while we still have the technology, and we still have the internet. Who knows what's going to be? Something could
Mm.
happen. You could wake up and there's no internet. Could you imagine?
To some people, like the end of the world, right? But
It would literally,
right?
I don't know what's more important, if
If
we
my
run out of
children
water.
hear you, I don't know if they know what life was like without internet. But you really get on a good point here, which is these things that we take for granted, and the things that are very um, original to us. By original, I mean we go back to our origins. Like when I was younger, we sit down and have supper together, and we'd sit around. And this probably sounds familiar to you. Maybe when you first immigrated to Israel, you would sit around in a circle, and there would be, we'd call it a siddur, which is a plate, a large plate that we put all the food on, and we'd sit around it, and that felt natural. It felt there was no imbalance of who was the head of the table, so to speak. We all felt like we belonged in this circle, and we've moved away now. We've moved away to the rectangular table, so to speak, where the heads of the table get to call out how we do things. And you talk about the ego, and you got
But
me
now we're
thinking,
on Zoom, and now it's a
right?
circle.
It's so the
It's
carré,
an
so
equalizer. It's an
it
equalizer.
is, right? But so, Josie, how do we go back? Because, when I think of circle, I think, in my work, I talk about the circle of inclusion, and the innermost part of the circle is the circle, is the most safe part. The closer we are to the center, the more safe we belong. How do you branch out this circle so that we're more inclusive and you're including more people in your collective? What are you doing? How are you doing it?
Well, we started the CEO Collective. I hooked up with somebody who finally got what I was talking about, Kelly Millar, and we created the CEO Collective. And we just started, putting out that we're having these events, and these incredible people started signing up, real global leaders from all the big brands. Not everybody always shows up, of course, yet, but the people who are coming are, really, really thrilled about it, because basically it's a human experience. They're getting a taste of this thing that I'm talking about, that, it's not just some random thing. Oh, it's not nice to have. I'll do this once a month. No, this is going to be our life. We're going to have to do this for a couple of hours every day. Actually get into a proper circle, a workshop question, and really connect in a significant way with other human beings. This is something, it's not just, some little thing. So these leaders are getting a taste of it, and they write to us after, it's like late at night. They write just like, I'm still buzzing from the meeting, like
Wow.
6 hours later, I get emails still late at night, because you actually come out high from the circle. The ego resists all these things. The human ego doesn't really want to connect. The human ego will resist, genuine human connection. We're designed to not really want that stuff. You see, any of us today, if I tell you I'm going to put you in a room with a huge computer and a screen and no kids are going to come in, nobody's going to bother you, you can be all by yourself, you don't have to do anything for anyone, we're all like, wow, that sounds nice. But like I heard in a YouTube clip today, the celebrities who are rich and not happy, there's like a series like that. One of them says when they want to punish prisoners, they put them in isolation. We're not wired. We think we want to be by ourselves and nobody bug me and I don't want to make dinner for anyone.
We're wired for connection.
But we're wired for connection.
Right.
And it kills us not when we really do take away connection, and sort of what's happening in this pandemic, all of a sudden I think people are appreciating connection a lot more.
How do you connect with these circles? Can you maybe just give me an idea of what I would go through and what somebody who might be interested in joining?
Yeah.
What does it feel like being part of the circle?
First of all, on LinkedIn, you can see now I'm the co-founder of the CEO Collective. And we do an event every 2 weeks. And the latest one, 105 people have signed up, actually more, which is really, really exciting. And these people are from all over the world. They're global leaders and big brands. And I'm interested in doing circles for anywhere where there's a group of people that want to experience this. It's a human experience. And I also have people in Canada that would be happy to help. We want people to get this taste of real human connection, because you see a lot of people coming together for all kinds of webinars and stuff. And it's all based around some business thing or some networking thing. And we have to try to create these circles that's like sort of a higher purpose, above all that stuff. That stuff will flow much easier after we connect properly as human beings.
Makes sense.
So that's why I'm really trying to, we just have this peace agreement now with the UAE, so I'm trying to get stuff going. What an amazing thing it would be to see like a big Israeli company and a big entity from there come together, do a project together, but do it based on, this collective intelligence, this integral approach. That first, let's focus on the human connection part. Let's get the ego out of the way that's really blocking everything. Not deleting the ego, but learning the circle helps, adjust the ego so that it's much more beneficial. So it sort of overrides the ego. And then you can tap into this amazing collective consciousness. So imagine if we took a company from there and we took a company from Israel and we showed this amazing example of human integration here in the Middle East, I would love to do that tomorrow in America, like take a group of, take even 5 Republicans and 5 Democrats, get a group of people like that together, get them on a Zoom and let's put them through a workshop for an hour. And I'm telling you, they would come out completely different. I can tell you right now, none of my friends would agree to do that because they're set on their, they're all, it's everybody's stuck in their corner and they think things are going to be better in a few weeks. They're not.
So Josie, I have a part of the podcast that I ask the guest. It's called the Unfiltered Thought of the Week. And you talk about how to break these paradigms and how to move beyond the platitudes and how do we get unstuck. So when you have these people who refuse to change and their egos are too big to sit in the room or in the circle, what could you tell us that would bring us together to sit at the circle and connect and create this human collective?
Nature has a lot more stuff to unleash. And if this pandemic, that is the first global crisis that affected and impacted and touched every single person on the planet one way or another, and we've never had a crisis like this that was so global. If you didn't get this memo from the system, wait, let's wait a few weeks. Let's see what happens. If you get up in a month and you turn on the tap and there's no water in Canada and you're living close to Niagara Falls.
Or no internet.
Or no internet or no mobile phones or something, no Starbucks or something, God forbid, that you guys over there are like, if you don't have stuff like that, you can.
Tim Hortons for most people, but I'm a Starbucks kind of guy.
So these things that we're used to, we've gotten used to. We're living in the 21st century, but we're so primitive. We're so primitive that we don't understand how this system works. We have all this technology. We have Elon Musk running off to Mars now to invade another planet. Like, didn't we make enough of a mess of this planet? Now we're going to another planet? Like, first stay here and fix things. These big technology guys, I would expect them, like Bill Gates, I said on a live the other day, he's going to spend 70 or 80 years trying to fix, polio or this pandemic or that. He's going to spend his whole life trying to fix this. Why isn't he asking? He's just trying to fix the symptoms. Why aren't people like that who are so high up in the system? They have so much money. They have foundations. They spend billions of dollars. Why don't they ask what the root problem is of all these things? Why are they just always dealing with the symptoms? You know why? Because it's easier. Because it's easier to deal with the symptoms that are outside of us. And it's easier than saying, there's something that I don't know. Bill Gates doesn't imagine for a second that there's something that he doesn't know. He considers himself a very well-read person. He reads 1 million books every week. He is very intelligent. I have total admiration for him. I have nothing against him, but start asking, what's the root problem of all these things? The root of all these different things is the human, us. Let's start dealing with that. Let's get down to nitty gritty. And, of course, he's always going to want to do something that's, going to get a few more $1 billion into his bank account. But here, it's not stuff that costs so much money. It's just a matter of having the desire to fix this core issue, because until we do that, nothing else is going to be great. So you said, how do you get these very egoistic people into the circle? I mean, take away their toys. What if there's no stock market tomorrow? What do you think those people are going to do? They're going to jump out the window. Why do we need to wait? This is what we do, okay? This is how we behave. A disaster happens, and all of a sudden, everybody gets extremely active, helping their neighbors, bringing food, bringing whatever, donating money, talking about rebuilding. Suddenly we get into high gear. Why aren't we in that high gear all the time, every day?
I think we get resiliently ignorant because, when you look at honestly though, right? And I say that because I always talk about resilience, but I think there's resilient ignorance, because when you look at what we did in April, when we did shut down the world, we didn't shut it down. The world said enough, and we figured the only way we were going to heal was to shut down. Kind of like when your body, you've got a disease, the doctor says, go and lay down and get some rest, right? The world needed to rest, and we needed to back off, and we did. To your point, if people don't believe it, we did. Economy shut down, doors shut down.
And look what happened. Look how nature reacted.
But we became resilient. I mean, the ozone layer, the whole started to repair itself. We started feeling healthier. Nature was healthy, but we became resiliently ignorant, because here in North America, when the weather's, the northern hemisphere, when things started getting a little better, people forgot there was this pandemic, and now we're having this second wave. So it's like nature, to your point, is telling us, you didn't listen. You ignored me. And you think that you got
was right? A very gentle, people freak out when I say that. This was a very gentle wake-up call from nature. People die all the time in car accidents. People say to me, but people are dying. People die and get sick all the time. That's not...
Almost 1 million people have perished from COVID. It's
still a gentle wake-up call compared to, Hurricane Harvey or something where, whoosh, where nature really comes with very aggressively. But something could happen tomorrow. The water, the tap water and the internet is one thing, but imagine if nature decides to take things up just a tiny notch. All of a sudden, millions of people could be walking around like zombies. Because this is all about balancing forces in the world. Heat, cold, good, bad, genders, male, female, all these things are out of balance. So nature is going to react in a negative way. So imagine if nature just changes one tiny percent of a degree, and all of a sudden you have a bunch of people that, just get up in the morning and go back to sleep. They don't even know why they're getting up, because
we do that now. Right? I know, but A lot of us are doing it now. We do walk around like zombies because I think we're too much into this egoistic, right? And when we
And
don't,
it's exhausting. It's
it is.
exhausting.
And when we don't achieve what we want, right?
And the confusion, the uncertainty, the stress, and add all that to the statistics of youth with the suicide and the depression and the addiction. What are all those things from? It's all from a lack of proper human connection.
It's our own design, and you're right. It's our inability to filter out the things that matter, and this isn't but it's really about becoming more unfiltered, better connectors with each other. So I want to thank you for telling us. And what I'll do is when I post this is I will share more information about the circle, because I personally like to learn more about the circle. Today I got to learn more about you and what you're about. And
you can come on the 20th. The next event is on the 20th.
Well, I look forward to the invitation, and maybe we can share that with the listeners as well, so that they can learn more about the circle. Josie, thank you for being my unfiltered guest and for sharing something primitive, but that we really need to listen to. Thank you very much.
Thank
you. Stay safe. Bye-bye. Peace.
Thank you for listening to Unfiltered, the show about authentic leadership and personal growth. Like what you heard? Click subscribe, share it, and tell a friend about it. And don't forget to leave a rating.